Hey guys, everyone, world, people. This is the Land Down Under Hangout doing Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, which is my pick this week or month. Yep, I enjoyed it. I read it, all of it. I was wondering if I was going to be the only one for a little while who might have read all of it or enjoyed all of it, but I'm glad to see that some people have also read all of it. So I am looking forward to having a bit of a chat. That's all right, Mel. About this book tonight. Do we want to just start with general thoughts, enjoyed, finished, formats, etc.? We'll start with Kirsten.
Yep. I enjoyed some parts of it and other parts were a bit dark for me, but I think overall I quite enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook, which was quite good. I thought the narration was quite good. But yeah, I can probably go into more detail later, but mostly I enjoyed it. It was probably a little bit more on the darker side than what I would normally read, but yeah.
Yep. Cool. I thought that too. Kim, next.
Yep, I did the audiobook as well, and like Kirsten, the narration was really good. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed most of it. Some storylines started to get a little bit boring for me. I have that problem when there's several storylines where I just want to go back to the one I'm most interested in, so I get a bit I'd be impatient with the ones I'm not as interested in, even though they might be good storylines. I just don't want to listen to them. But that's a personal problem I have. But overall, I did enjoy it. Did have an issue with where she left it though, but we'll get into that.
Yes, I have a big note and a big highlight and big circles around that particular section. Yes, but yeah, we will get to that. Sarah.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm muting here. So I really enjoyed it, and this is the second book that's, although this is set in more of a pre-Columbian exchange world, probably it still reminded me a lot, and of course a lot of this is from the same type of cultures. The story we met set in Mexico, and Elizabeth, help me out. You remember the names of it?
Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
I never remember, which I really enjoyed, and I love this type of, how do I describe it? Gods and monsters and themes, and I'm really enjoying it. I also listened to the audiobook and thought the narration and the direction was really good. And from what I can understand, this was actually directed and done during the pandemic. So everybody was at home recording from their own, studios. And I thought it actually came together really well, and was well directed. You guys know how I feel about audiobooks, and you need to have good direction. It's so curious because I wanted to know more about the author and her inspirations and etc., which I'd love to dive into later when if we've got the opportunity to. I have some thoughts, and well, not thoughts, just things to talk about.
I knew you would. I've actually got your name written down next to a couple of things. Elizabeth.
This book was not for me. I tried 3 times to read it, twice in paper, once on audiobook, and I did not get past the first third. It wasn't a matter of darkness for me. I don't know whether I was just like in a strange reading mood, but one of the characters seriously bugged me, so that was also a factor. But I was kind of disappointed because some of the parts of it were interesting to me, but I was just finding it a real slog to get back to, and I had other deadlines coming up. So I'm interested to hear what people have to say about it tonight, especially too because I read one of Rebecca Roanhorse's other books, Trail of Lightning, different series. And remember, I enjoyed that a reasonable amount. So it was disappointing to me that I didn't gel with this one.
I seem to be having some audio issues. I can semi hear you guys, which is really annoying at the moment. So sorry. And it's reconnecting me. Yeah, I heard most of that, Elizabeth. You read one of the other ones you said.
Yeah, I read Rebecca Roanhorse's Trail of Lightning. It's like a completely different series. And I remember liking it a reasonable amount. So I had been kind of looking forward to this, and I was a bit disappointed that I just didn't gel with it.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was looking at some of the other things that she's written, and I'm going to flip back to Sarah as well, because one of the things she's written is a Star Wars novel. I'm sad Matt's not here, actually, because I wondered if he knew about that.
Call him in. I can call him in.
Did you know, Sarah? Rebecca
I knew once I read that article, and just a couple of other things, which I think is great. I think that, yeah, look, I'm someone who wants to adapt somebody else's work for doing, like, I'm all for it. Take a universe, adapt and make new things. Like, nothing wrong with fan fiction.
What does Matt say? You're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Kirsten.
I thought I clicked unmute. Sorry, I must have clicked it twice.
Yes, but I have not read it.
You have not read it. Oh, because I was just wondering, like, what her, because so Elizabeth, you've read one of her other novels, and I was just wondering what her Star Wars would be like, and what her style of writing would be like in other novels other than this one. Because I think I enjoyed her style of writing.
Yeah,
Interesting.
It's been a little while since I read Trail of Lightning. It's been out for a couple of years now. Oh my gosh, it's like 3 years now or something like that. So my recollection isn't the clearest, but it was like she did some interesting things with her world building and with like not urban fantasy exactly, but kind of adjacent.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting. I enjoyed it.
All right, so what have we got? We had there were 4 main characters, right? Or 3 main and like 1 semi-adjacent character.
Yeah, so we've got Narumpa.
Yeah,
we've got Serapio. We've got Serapio.
Yeah.
Kiala.
Is it Kiala or Shiala?
In the audiobook they pronounced it Kiala, but I think you can kind of like take your own thing on that. And then Okua, who kind of shows up like halfway through? I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. I have not met this character, so
there you go. So not a third of the way through, but yeah, Okua, who shows up, who I think will be a more central character going forward. So those are the kind of
this one was more centered around like Serapio and Kiala and you know
Narumpa,
the Crow God and but it's establishing for Narumpa and Okoa to go ahead in maybe the next one.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see what Kim was saying before, like you want to focus more on Serapio and Kiala because their stories were the main point of this book, I think. But I was really interested in Narumpa as well, just really? Because I felt like something was happening.
I hated her so much. Every time we get to her section, I was just like, I can't stand this woman.
She did need some teeth, didn't she?
I really did.
I don't think I disliked her that much. I just disliked those parts of the story. I wanted to get back to the other part of the story, and I was
She's-
like, oh,
she was
not
so
this one again.
green. She was so green. I think that's what, because I wondered when Elizabeth said, one character who drove me up the wall, I thought, I wonder if that's Nara.
Yep.
Because I was also like, oh God, like admittedly the narrator for that, the accents that she did for all the different characters, there was they were magic. She was like, Nara, like that Valley Girl voice was so
Didn't
good.
you hate that
That's
girl?
exactly how I imagined it. Was it Ava or Ava?
Ava.
I think, with a B.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exactly, and I was like,
That's what she sounded
come
like.
on, can you not see what's happening? And I suppose that was the thing, like if she grew up in the tower, and this is to your point, maybe what was frustrating you, of course you would see political machination. Like, why have you so, like, I don't know. Anyway, so
But
I was
she came from, what was it, the
More.
Earth people or something. What did they call
Coyotes
them?
more in the
Coyotes
earth,
more,
the
yeah.
earth.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she was a person of the earth, not a sky maiden born.
Yeah.
So she was
Yeah.
never going to be accepted there. So she had to, like, she came from this totally different area and was blind to a whole bunch of the things that were going on, and was totally naive, and was a step behind the entire time. Like,
Wasn't she in
I
her
felt really
30s
sorry
and
for
she
her.
went there when she was 10?
That's what I mean.
Not learn
Yeah.
anything in that time.
But she never, like, she aspired to be what she was heading towards, but she never thought that she was going to be. It was all a big surprise when her mentor named her his successor, and to everyone involved.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it felt a little bit, while we're there, well, let's talk about Narumpa, because to me, it sounded very much like a king's or a queen's court, like Versailles. Everybody's there. It's, you've just got all the rich, or, and they're all basically moving the chess pieces around to suit themselves. And then you have all of those, and I can't think of what the word is, but the traditions of pomps and circumstance, like how the Sun King would have one person would come in and put one glove on, and the next person, there was all of these things. And I could see that within this guild. It was a gilded tower, wasn't it?
It was
literally, that's how it was written.
It was the church. It was Christianity, the church. It was
very much which is also
Catholicism
within the Vatican Church, which is also incredibly political, right? So
insular as well, right?
Like, so I do think it was, as much as she wasn't expecting it, it did seem a little bit far-fetched, to the point that I was with Elizabeth and I was like, oh my God, how naive is this woman?
But like, it wasn't only that she was naive for me. It was, well, first of all, she's hypocritical. And then second of all, it's the combination of naive but controlling. Like, she's like, and like, I'm all here for her agenda and that sort of thing. She had a good vision for what she wanted. But like, that her desire to control people, and then her naivety about the machinations going on around her, was just the worst combination.
Very romantic idealism going on there.
Because she sort of hadn't learned the whole political stuff, is that you have to influence and have people like on yours, whether you're a king or a queen. I mean, you only have to have a look at what was it, Louis the 16th, who lost his head. Like, he could not influence anybody within his court, and what happened? There was a revolution. So anyway, but it was the other thing I wanted to ask, if anyone was else confused by this, was there a flash, like there was like one sort of this flashback of her being bound by the witch, and then we came to it at the end of the story? Did anyone else kind of go, sorry?
There was, they kicked her off with a flashback.
Thank you. Because I was like, hang on, was this in the past? And I was getting a bit
I think it was no, actually, never mind.
Are you talking about the part where she snuck out of the tower and then went back to the part where her brother was?
No. There's they start off her perspective, I think, with her being captured, her having been captured by the witch, and they're preparing her for torture, death, something. I didn't get far enough to find out. And then you like kick off her perspective with the march, the parade. But you
I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember
yeah,
it either.
I went over it twice because I had to start the audiobook from the beginning. And so I went over that twice.
Yeah, and it's probably because it was at the beginning. That was when I was still trying to get my head around who all the characters were and what was going on.
Honestly, from the editorial point of view, I don't think it was needed, because by the time we got to the end, like, that was interesting, which Elizabeth did make it, but basically find out the witch has pulled her dead body in and is basically reviving her. So
yeah,
the Flash,
that it was probably going to be a bit misleading.
Yeah,
is it
like
part of
pointless.
the reason that she ended up in the tower in the first place? Is that what that was?
No, it's that. So at the end, you know how the witch gets the sixth sense that she needs help. By the time she gets to her, because she's jumped off one of the bridges and fallen to her death, she pulls her dead body in and then basically performs witchcraft to rise, necromancy effectively. So what we're seeing in that flash is a flashback at the beginning, or a flash forward, I should say. Sorry, a flash forward.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Where she's actually coming to out of the necromancy, and she's kind of like, why am I bound? Why can't I? Which is because she can't feel any of her hands and legs or anything like that yet, because she's basically
go back, I think, and reread that bit.
No, it's framed like the witch is like killing her or torturing her or something like that.
Or kidnapped her or
misleading.
something. Yeah. Totally anyway. So that was Narumpa. I thought, what did you guys think of the idea of what's the sun, like the celestial tower? What did we think of that? The idea of the no thoughts. That's okay.
Something that I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Like
the sun rock.
Like the rich people in their, ivory towers who don't actually know what's going on in the world.
And just the whole clan, like all the different clans and the different ceremonies, and
it's just astrology.
Yeah.
Just doing astrology.
Like astrology, like old school astrology, like where you have omens and you read the horoscopes for like to see when you schedule events and stuff like that, reading the hours, as they used to call it. Like it's and I don't know whether that whether it is based in a like Western tradition, or whether like there were like it takes influences from other cultures. I don't know enough about like astrology across the globe to answer to that, but even like Chinese astrology is like that too. Like you look to find the auspicious date for the wedding or whatever.
Pretty sure the Mayans were very into all of that kind of stuff too, which is probably this kind of had that sort of feel to it.
Well, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think
it was interesting in that sense. Like she didn't just go for like a straight up Christian parallel. She kind of went for something a little more subtle, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a good parallel drawn with Kiala as well, using the sky as well to navigate with. And like I remember there was one point in there where she went, yeah, I look at the sky. I look at the stars. This is what I do with them. Yes. And next.
I did like on that point, that reminds me, I did like how they're as they're telling each other stories about things. Kiala isn't really interested, but you can see those similarities between the different cultures' stories. I really like that part, because I like mythology, and I like seeing that in our mythology, how the stories line up between the different cultures. and how there's similarities there. So that interested me a lot, seeing like there were similarities between her wandering island nations and the cultures that didn't really have contact with them, still had similarities in their stories.
Mm.
I mean, the world building was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
That
was.
Yeah.
Those conversations between Serapio and Kiala, they like that whole relationship building at nighttime when everyone else was asleep, and the exchanging of stories. It was really adorable.
That was my favorite part of the book. Their relationship was my favorite part of the book, and probably if that hadn't been there, I wouldn't have wanted to keep reading. And that was part of the reason why every time we moved away from them and we went back to Narumpa, I was like, oh, okay, that's her now. So she did suffer from the comparison, I think. Like, I probably wouldn't have disliked her parts as much as if I hadn't enjoyed the other part as much as I did.
G.
Yes.
Got a question for us?
Yes. I thought you had a question for me. I was like, oh, yes.
No, I just didn't know if you wanted us to, like, do you want us to talk about the other characters, or is there
magic? So Kiala's and Serapio's, the crows. Shall we talk about the crows?
Yeah,
the big ones, the massive ones,
the Crow clan. Shall we talk about the? Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the literal beginning with his mother and the whole prophecy and the building of the crow god and the vessel, and her she did all of that. Like, she made all of that happen.
That was horrifying. That I nearly wanted to give up the book at the beginning, because
I knew as I was reading that, I was like, this is the point.
I warned Mel about it. I don't know if Mel kept going, because I said there's body horror at the beginning of this, and it's not nice. It's pretty, because it's to a child as well, so it's very disturbing to read. Like, I chose a book a little while ago where someone came in and murdered the twin babies or something, and I was like, right, nope, not reading this.
It was, I think it made it even worse that it was from his perspective, and he was so trusting to his mother. And
the fact that it was his mother doing it made it worse as well.
End of that scene, it's not what has happened to him that he's upset about. It's the fact that he lost his mother. That is what upsets him. It's not the ordeal that he's been through. It's the loss of his mother,
because he's been convinced that this is something that is his destiny, and that he has to do it.
But he also didn't know why she was doing it either. Like, at that time, he didn't know that she was going to sacrifice herself, and that she was the sacrifice to be able to initiate this whole prophecy thing. He didn't find that out until later with his master.
I mean, I hadn't found that out yet, so that's interesting to me.
His mother. So his mother machinated all of this. So there was even a point where they were talking about, so between him and his masters, they were talking about whether his mother actually loved him or not, because she had purposely created a child to purposely become the vessel of the god, and that all of these things would be required. So she had already prepared herself that all of these things would have to happen to this child that she was creating. And he said, was it one of the masters said, don't be surprised if she might not have loved you. And he went, no, I clearly remember a moment of love where she looked at me with love and then threw herself off the cliff. So she set all this up. It was a big ritual to be able to prepare a vessel for the crow god to come later.
And you do get a sense of that. I think I read through. I got through his first encounter with his teacher of the spear. And between that and his first teacher, you do get a sense that she's definitely playing a long game, and she set all this up for a while now. And sorry, like, because I'm interested in this book, but I just couldn't get through it.
Couldn't get over the hump bit.
You know, I think if I'd had access to the print copy longer, because I borrowed from the library, I probably would have been okay, because I would have been able to just skim through Narumpa's part. But I had to return it, and I picked it up on audio instead. And yeah. But does Serapio retain his self, like, after he manifests the crow of God, presumably?
We don't know.
That's the problem with the ending.
Oh,
She
no.
ends it in the middle of almost everything.
Should we skip ahead and talk to that? Should we? I mean, we'll skip all the whole chunk of middle, but yeah, that is a burning thing, isn't it?
Yeah, as I'm seeing the timer tick down on the audiobook, I'm like, she's not winding this up. Nope, she's gonna wind. Is she gonna wind anything up? She's not winding this bit up.
Cliffy. Cliffy.
She's not winding it up. God damn it.
I did know that there was the second book out, because it came out just recently. Yeah,
it's a trilogy.
It's a trilogy.
Third's not out yet, I don't think.
That's right. So I knew it wasn't going to be a one and done. So, like, a cliffhanger doesn't really surprise me there. But
they talk about the prophecy, and they talk about being a vessel of God. And when you're a vessel of a God, you are a vessel. Like, when the God inhabits you, you no longer exist, right? So he's preparing to die. That's what he thinks is going to happen. And so he goes, spoilers, everyone. So he goes to like the center island, the sunstone, sun rock, where to meet the sun priest and the procession as they come to, so they're coming for a funeral. Is that one?
No, they're coming for the solstice.
Oh, for the solstice,
yeah,
right. So he has to wait for the eclipse to happen.
Not just the eclipse, at the winter solstice. Yeah.
And he's there waiting for them when they come there, and he slaughters everyone, except that the Narumpa, who is the sun priest, has been deposed. There's been a coup.
She's been usurped.
And she's been usurped, and he kills the sun priest. And then, like, they talked about it beforehand, and they said it doesn't matter who is behind the mask, it's the symbolism of murdering the priest. But when he murders the priest and it's not Narumpa, he goes, "You're not the sun priest." And it almost feels like the prophecy hasn't quite been fulfilled. And then it kind of just ends like that.
Yeah, Narumpa's jumped off a bridge because Ava's tried to kill her. They were trying to throw her over, and she jumps.
Goodness sake, just kill Ava.
Yeah, and then
it all happens in the
what's
last
his name?
35% too.
Otway, the matron's son, grabs him on his bird and starts flying off. Okoa, starts flying off, and he might be regaining consciousness at this. He's starting to regain consciousness.
Quick question. Maybe this isn't relevant, but who deposed Narumpa? Was it the
Ava and her boyfriend?
Everyone did, basically, but Ava and her boyfriend, and the
even
clan
the assassin. So her knife.
Yep.
Yeah.
Her assassin friend also betrayed her and voted to replace her.
But he was trying to save her, whereas Ava's planning to kill her.
Well, I'm a little bit like, were they really, or were they really untrustworthy the whole time? I don't know about that.
Well, it was something about they were looking for her in the tower or something, Ava was saying.
I think they do have feelings for her, but I also think that they were going to betray her the whole way through.
Yeah.
Was it a problematic depiction for someone who's not, like, who is genderqueer, gender fluid?
How do you mean?
Was there Yeah, is the assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there enough representation that like it wasn't problematic to frame this person as being super untrustworthy?
I didn't
don't
read
think
them
that
as
was
being
really-
untrustworthy. I read them as being
Overprotective.
Yeah.
no, more upholding
It was
what the
hard to tell,
celestial
yeah.
stout power, like if the best way to peace and the best way to uphold what the celestial tower stands for is that Narumpa needs to be usurped because the other 3 of the 5 stand by it, then that's the way that I understand. And I cannot remind.
So for the
remember
institution instead.
yeah, for the institution. That's the way I kind of had read it or understood it, that it was more that.
That's curious because they don't really seem to support like any kind of tradition like throughout.
Yeah, which is what Narumpa kind of throws back at them. The thing that I'll be interested to see how it goes in the second book, because this was a criticism, is this just lip service to having a non-binary character as opposed to, and that's kind of actually how I feel about it a little bit, is that I don't feel good or bad the bit that like the way you said, is it problematic? I just go, this isn't a fully fleshed out, realized character who I understand their flaws, and
I kind of think that was done on purpose.
And you've turned them into not like, yeah, I don't. I'll be interested
because
to see how
of the assassin side of things. So quite often they were not there, right? If you get it, like
but it seemed a little convenient. I think the thing is that, and this is, I think, a valid criticism. It seems a little convenient to take a character who you don't understand or can't understand and turn them into a non-binary person.
Yeah.
And that I think that is valid. I think that is, and that was one of the criticisms that people have, is that, are you just doing this to tick a box? And that is the thing I hate the most, is when you're ticking boxes for diversity's sake, as opposed to going, what does this enhance the story to help tell the story, and if it isn't, then how do I make it do more? Which is why I'm withholding judgment till the second book. So that's kind of where I stood with it.
Yeah, I can see that the character might be kept mysterious to make their story arc better in the next book, possibly.
Because that wasn't they weren't the knife who got killed. That was very obvious. They were not the knife who got killed at Sunrock, so they weren't there either. So
it's alluded that they're in the tower, possibly looking for a Narumpa.
Yeah,
because she's been disappeared by Ava.
Yeah.
So basically, one character's just barely alive, another one's just dead, but could be alive again soon.
One we're not sure about at all.
The other one's crying.
And
in despair.
Yeah, drunk. Drunk.
Well, and to be honest, that seems like the best place to be right now, considering everything that's going on.
Shall we talk a little bit about Kiala?
Yeah, she's great. I mean, I think she's easily most people's favorite character. She's fully realized. She's fun. She's feisty. She's sexy. She's got flaws, and you're aware of them, and you want her to work on them. You're feeling that character up.
And holy crap, she's a mermaid.
Who didn't see that coming?
She didn't, apparently.
Yes.
No, apparently she didn't. And I was like, if I could see it, come on, girlfriend.
There were so many alluding like fairy tale, talking about.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Sometimes if you need to like drop the major hints, that's fine.
Yeah, the singing part was the thing that gave it away. Long before she actually had a table.
Which, if we're thinking about the harpies, like if that's one of the areas they're pulling from inspiration, I don't think the harpies were actually mermaids.
Sirens. Sirens were.
Sirens
are
were.
mermaids, yeah.
I didn't think of sirens were
Oh,
mermaids. I thought
depends
they
on
were
depends on the story, but
right.
Yep.
Sorry, maybe I'm
Generally, yes.
sirens.
Mm.
Harpies also sung though, didn't
Harpies
Harpies have got
voices,
wings,
yeah.
haven't they?
they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was?
Harpies fine.
Someone help me with my mythology. Odysseus got strapped to the pole for the harpies.
Sirens.
Or sirens.
That was
Sirens.
yeah.
Yeah, Sirens on the Rock. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Who drowned sailors.
Yep, lured them to their deaths
Yep.
on the rocks.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is
And they're really
exactly
just
what her people
manatees.
did.
Yeah. No, Kiala was great. I thought, as much as Narampa's introduction was odd, I thought Kiala's introduction was fantastic. And a
Yeah.
nice welcome break after the whole depressing start with poor Serapio. I was like, oh, thank
Yeah.
God.
Oh, I'm in prison again.
Oh, yeah.
Let me out
I'm in
then.
prison
What
again.
did I do?
But what
I got too
happened?
drunk.
I loved
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh, that.
Water
Oh,
over
yeah,
there.
that's right. She was quite sexy. Oh, yeah, she was married. Damn.
Oh, that's the
after
death
that?
penalty here.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic introduction. A plus.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how she talked about like the sea being her mother. And then there was that one point where she went and bathed in the river and she came back all distressed because the river didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
And they were traveling up river.
And she was
she's like,
drunk and distressed.
yeah, drunk and distressed. A big hot mess.
Yeah, hot mess,
Right.
yes, definitely the word.
But yeah, that was the river didn't recognize her. I remember that. Like, imagine that you go to bathe thinking you're gonna feel that, and it's not there. Like, what? And drunk.
And drunk. And then she drunk.
And drunk. Yeah. Yeah. I thought the interesting thing was, this is not about Kiala necessarily, but I liked the setup of the boat as a massive canoe, as opposed to, you know, when they talked about her ship at, you know, the oars and that type of thing. I thought that was super interesting, because I you know, I don't know, it's just really cool, really, and different from anything else where there's like water vessels involved, where there's sails or you know, that type of thing, which was really neat. And I enjoyed that.
Drawing on an earlier period of history and islander traditions.
Yeah, and probably a lot of the Indigenous Americans of the Central American area, you know, around that, I can never say it right, begins with O and an X, and it's the peninsula that sticks out. Thank you. I never can say it. Apparently, great tequila, great mezcal. I can never say where it's from. But yeah, because there's a lot of they're not fjords, but they're like fjords, or the crinkly bits, as Farty Fastwood used to call them, canoeing in there. Good for fishing, you know, being stealthy. So
why there was such a stress on the open ocean as well, right? They were like, we don't really go that way.
yeah, we stick to the shore and we follow the shore. Yeah.
But then the
Oh,
singing
very
of the
cool.
current, that was really cool. I'm like, how handy would that be?
Yeah.
I mean, not so handy on a river where you could really use it.
Yeah, although they have those great big
Yes, you didn't need it for the river.
the insects,
The water strider.
This water strider.
Water strider. I was kind of hearing them talk about it. I was thinking, I'm gonna look these things up. So when they said, what is this big beast? I'm like, oh, it's a big insect. I got it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool.
I wonder if there's
really
somewhere with a breakdown of the clans, because that's what they were talking about. You know, this clan has the water striders, and this clan has the ravens, the giant ravens, and this clan has
Crows,
something.
eagles, water strider. What was the other one?
Yeah.
Water
strider, and
it was a fire clan.
The fire clan.
Because they have a
it was like dragon serpents flying.
Oh yeah.
Oh, flying serpents, which we didn't get to see in action, I don't think. Yeah.
I'm like, there was a fourth one. There's always four.
It's always four. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was good. And I thought it was interesting about Kiala's home life in that she grew up in a tribe of women. And I don't know if that was calling on those Amazon mythologies.
Part of the siren mythology as well.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes
The
sense.
drowning
That makes
of the
sense
men.
too. Yep,
Yeah.
that makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of cool.
It's funny, like seeing it from her perspective though, because you hear so much in the mythology about how that's like a negative, you know, that, like I keep saying, they drown the men, but on her side it was like a family unit of women, like it came from the opposite perspective, and that was really nice.
And what a big deal it was to be like cast away from that. And
yeah. I also wondered what they did with the male babies.
Maybe they don't have male babies.
I can only hope that it's like G's favorite novel, where they don't get pregnant until they light candles, you know, they have lots of convenient sex until they decide. Yeah, I could only hope it's like that. But, yeah. What did you guys think? And I don't think you made it this far, Elizabeth, but it was good. It was a good, I think it was midpoint, or maybe the kind of the crisis point. What did you guys think of the crew? Let's say bye to the crew.
Oh, goodbye to the crew.
Yeah.
I thought of Mel at that time too.
Yeah, Mel would not have liked that part at all. Yeah.
He basically summoned, like, he'd been talking to the crows ever since they left land, and the crew mutinied, and he could hear them, like, as they were plotting to murder them. They locked them both in a cell, and he's like, okay, they're coming now. I'm just going to call all of these crows.
No, he didn't even say that. He goes, just stall them. And she's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and then all these crows. It was like Birds, the movie. Everyone died. Yeah.
And that didn't worry me, because I wanted them all to die after the one. Like, she's like, she bloody friggin' went to go and save them, and then it's like, oh, because you're a mermaid now, we're going to be
Storm
kill you. But people don't want a mermaid on your side, you idiots. What? Why wouldn't you want
the worst was the guy she saved, blaming her for killing the guy that...
Man, I hated that. I wanted that guy to die.
And every time she said it was probably you who did it, he just got worse and angrier, and you're like, yeah, she's right. She's hit the nail on the head. She should probably shut up. But he was about to, like, kill her, and he just goes, all right, bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye.
I was shocked that's where it went, but I also thought it was smart, because you've just stuck your two characters in the poo. Like, I thought it was like bang on, right? It's like, what do? You put them in an impossible to get out situation, because they're telling at the beginning of every chapter, it's 7 days till the eclipse, or whatever they would say at the beginning of every chapter, right? And I was like, and you guys are stuck in the middle of the fucking ocean with no crew. Like, so how are you going to get out of this one? This is good. This is good. So I was like, are you going to throw little ropes around all your crows and they'll pull you in? Like,
and then she, like, completely, like, just loses it and just drinks, like, everything that's left on the boat. And
this is again why I really liked her as a character. I'm like going, I've just watched like all my crew get murdered by blackbirds. Yeah, I'd drink too.
And then
in
literally
fact,
the
I
crows,
was surprised
like,
she was as cool as she
in.
was about the whole thing. Like it was she must have been like, I've seen some shit.
That's what I imagined. Yep, that just happened.
Yeah. That follows. Yep.
We do this, okay. Keep going.
She's definitely the most relatable character.
Oh yeah. So
I like it. I quite liked Serapio, and that story that you just said makes me like him even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a really good part right near where he leaves.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's nice.
your face. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's still alive, so we've got hopes for
Uh-huh.
book 2.
Uh-huh.
We don't even,
Yeah.
she
They
must be
totally
in it
fell
because
in
we
love.
don't even know still why she was banished from the island. Like she's banished from her island and we don't actually know the reason.
I feel like
I
there
think
was
we
an
do.
accidental death of someone,
Yes,
right?
there was mention of
I
blood.
thought it's
Lots of
because
blood.
she was a mermaid again.
No,
I think
she doesn't know
that's
that.
They're
Because
all mermaids.
she said her. I didn't know if that, because she didn't know, and she said when it would happen, she had memory of her mother and grandmother looking at her in horror. So
I remember blood as well. Like,
right,
Yeah, she
okay.
mentioned something like a partial memory of like just having a memory of blood and all of this, a nightmare or something.
But she didn't
back in her
remember
past, but she
being a
didn't say what it
mermaid
was.
or didn't know that was part of
No,
her.
she
So
didn't know.
I
She
thought
said
it might
she'd
be
heard
interconnected.
stories.
Right.
She said she'd heard stories. There were stories about when they were in
and she knew
when
about
antique
her
woman was in
eyes.
extreme danger that they could they turned into
Fish. Yeah.
fish. Yeah,
Gotcha.
or turned
She
into
knew
other
about
things.
her eyes, but she didn't recognize the gills or the tail as something that happened to her.
Yeah. The eyes having, I kind of equated them to like seal eyes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen. Oh, what happened?
No, just turned their camera off. It's all right.
Oh yeah, fair cool. I seen seal eyes and seen those third eyelids. They're freaky because they get rid of all the pupils and they look like, the 1980s, devil kind of thing. Yeah, it's very, very, very kind of freaky. So I can imagine if you're calling and they look at you, anyway.
What about the
Serapio,
shadows? The gathering of the shadows around him, like she said, it felt like the sun was scared of him. Oh, I like that bit.
It's like, because there was their story of the gods where the crow god and the sun god did not like each other much. So they're basically coming to kill each other. Well, he's coming to kill. One god's coming to kill another god, basically. So
because
one
of
god's coming to kill the sun god, so the sun is scared of him.
What was it? The Day of Knives?
Something else for them. The Night of Knives was why they're going for revenge.
Yeah.
But this was a story about the what
it said 300 years ago or something, wasn't it? At the very beginning there was something about an eclipse as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, so he lost his mother did all the eye stuff during an eclipse, I believe.
Yeah, when she made him look at the sun.
Yes.
That was during the eclipse, wasn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
And
but yeah, there was something
ancient. So this was the solstice
gods.
and the eclipse together at the same time. It hadn't happened in
very
so long.
auspicious, of a date.
Or inauspicious, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And then, I think 300 years ago was when the client, they set up this celestial tower and looked to science instead of the gods they each had their crow god and their all that kind of stuff to determine where they were. But then I think one of the masters was telling the story of where this all came in reference to Serapio's mother and her studies of trying to find out more about the crow god and where it came from. And then I think one of the masters' perspective on it was that basically the gods, which seems to be in keeping with what we learned about Native American and Indigenous American gods and gods of jade and shadow. Thank you. Which is, they're basically just like Roman gods and squabble a lot and like to think they're self-important, and not like benevolent, calm kind of ideals. They're just, basically egotistical entities that want to all want the power. So and that seemed to kind of follow with, and that's why I'm interested to see where this goes. If it's going to be somebody will have someone's going to die, or someone will have either a new god or we'll go back to whatever it was, or whether it'll be actually let's just reject all of this altogether because why are we in service to any of this at all? None of it makes any sense. We need to find a new path forward. So, and it's not that magic doesn't exist, but yeah, it was interesting.
Sorry.
Just a quick look at the blurb for the second book. Frames up Kiala meeting up with Iktan, the assassin.
Iktan, I could not remember their name.
Neither.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting.
That sounds like fun.
Does sound like fun. They're kind of two people who don't take shit. Yeah, so that's going to be,
Are we going to be reading the second one? Anyone? I think I will.
I need someone to read it first and tell me
it's worth reading.
I listened to a brief review from Rachel on the YouTube channel Kalanadi, who's a well-respected reviewer and has been nominated for a Hugo Award on a few occasions. Her feeling was that it suffered badly from second book syndrome, where they're just trying to set up, get people in the position for things to happen.
Is it like the Siege book? It's always book 2 that's the Siege book that's just like it drags.
That was the impression that I got, but
damn it.
Obviously I haven't even read the first one, so take that with a grain of salt.
I basically need to know if we get more of the Serapio and Shiala relationship, and
I would say
I'll read it, and if there's not, then I'm not.
I would say no. I would say if it's like any trilogy, you split everybody up, and then they all come back together in book 3.
Yeah.
Maybe I just skip book 2 and read book 3.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you split them up, you can pair them up in new and interesting ways. But
exactly. And I always think that can be absolutely. That's always really interesting. Yeah. It's like if you think about a three book trilogy and just that it's a 3 in terms of if there was 1 and there's 3 acts to your book, you're in act 2. What do they always do in act 2? It's like, oh, we're all like it's all different, and now we're going to solve it. Exactly. So
but I hate that it left on such a cliffhanger. Now I need to know.
But
I think
Laura said that from Rachel from Kalanadi said that. I do notice that on Goodreads she's given it 4 stars.
So still a good read.
It's got some good ratings actually. The second book, it's 4.15 on Goodreads and decent amount of reviews. So it looks like it's doing well. And I don't know about you guys, but it's been a while since I've read something that's I got like. I want to say texture, it got chunk to it, it's got it's not light and fluffy and can skim over and or a one booker. It's an epic fantasy that's a trilogy that I think I might enjoy as a trilogy. And it actually you guys have been saying it reminded you of the what was it, the Gods of Jaden
Shadow.
Yeah, I didn't read that one, so I'm going to have to go and read that one now. But the last one that we read that it reminded me of, sort of, was the 5th season, the N.K. Jemisin.
Yep.
I got a lot of these kind of like build-up vibes in this kind of book, and the fact that I think this series will have a good overall arc, maybe.
Yeah.
I
got some. Yeah. Sorry, George.
No, go, done.
I was just going to say, I was getting that kind of Games of Thrones thing, but also going, this is also feeling a little less expansive, that I don't give up at book 3 or 4, because I kind of got bored. I got bored. And whereas I feel like this, I'm going, okay, I know this is 3 books. I can deal with that. I know how this is going to structure. That's cool, and I think that this, it's just this pre-Columbian exchange world that she's building is super interesting, and then bringing in these other elements of mythology from other places that she's interested in. It's just, that's my jam. So I'm with you. I probably will go on with this, because I did really enjoy it at the end of the day.
And the cover for the second one is really pretty too. Like
Yeah,
it was really nice.
pretty.
The first one, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool.
And the second
So
one
cool.
is like it's a starburst one. It's really nice too.
Sunburst.
Fevered Star.
Well, look,
the title
you
of the
know,
first
sun is a star, technically.
Sun is a star. The third book is called Mirrored Heavens, and it won't be out until August of next year. So pace yourselves.
We're not in any hurry.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Depends
That
on what the
sucks.
ending of the second book is like.
I would imagine that it would be just cliffhanger.
Then yeah. I imagine so too. I think that's most of what I've gotten written down.
Just think if there's anything else.
I do kind of appreciate what she's doing by making the villain so sympathetic and the like hero question mark being such an awful.
Did you get to the part? So Kiala says it a few times that she's not sure whether he's a hero or a villain.
No, I didn't
Says
get
it a few
that.
times.
Yeah, she says that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you're like,
And
yeah,
even
no,
at the end, as he's slaying like all of these people, you're still like, I don't know.
Is he the bad one, or is he is he really the bad one?
Problem with charisma,
Yeah.
I just got the sense that everything's messy, which I think is really well observed. Like wherever it comes to, some people are being treated shittily and there's rebellion, and like everybody's a protagonist and an antagonist, and there's there's shades of grey.
So that is true. I appreciate that she's not doing like everybody is awful, because I really hate that.
No, and that's what I like too. I actually thought that was the bit that I meant, like protagonist, antagonist, is that like Narumpa is really frustrating, but I think she's got some good ideas. Like, I think there are the same thing. Kiala, like, everyone's got their flaws, but everyone's got, good things about them. I actually really like Okoa, because even though he came in like halfway, we needed a bit of fresh air, and it was actually really nice to be at the War College. That sounds like a beautiful place. I was just like, with all the waving grasses, and it just sounded, I don't know, kind of never-ending story. What was that place where rides through the purple fields or something like that? Anyway, it sounded really nice and really interesting as well, because it's sort of the War College being a place. It's a university at the end of the day, but it's a different type of university. It didn't strike me as being like a military school. It struck me as being much more of a martial arts kind of environment, but because they're also learning about like the history and how to make your own make weapons, and learning about other cultures so that you can hold your own. So I thought it was just really interesting. And I know it's not quite it's different in its intent, but when at the beginning of the year, when we went down south, I went to for our holiday. It was a rainy day, so we stopped in at the Buddhist temple in Wollongong, which was beautiful. I'd never been there before, and it's such a place of learning and meditation. And there was something that with the War College, I was really reminded of that, because it's a place of learning, and the buildings, and that people are there to meditate on their craft, on their martial art, as it were. And I kept kind of imagining places like that, which was really, really cool. Anyway, I was going to say about Okoa, I thought it was really interesting because he's becomes this unwitting, he doesn't know who to believe or what's going on, which I thought was really cool. He's kind of like, I've been out and whoop. I don't know what's happening. I've come back. Everyone's wanting to talk to me. My sister's a pain in my ass, is like she always is. And and I don't like my best cut, my friend, my cousin, is I'm being told not to trust him, or I don't know if I should trust him. And it's just, you know, and then he ends up, because his crow, his mount ends up having good, you know, ends up being Serapio's biggest, you know, like hype man or hype woman or hype crow. It's like, yeah, you're the most amazing. I'm here to serve you. That means I'm going to go get my boy and bring him back.
Yeah, basically like
Serapio
spends the night, like it's winter, it's the winter solstice. Serapio spends the night out on the sun rock, and his bird leaves the aviary and goes and shelters him for the night. Because like when Serapio's called out to the crows, he calls out to his crow. What is her name?
Where is he?
Ben.
Something. Whatever starts with a B.
Wait.
So she goes and shelters him for the night, and then he's like, "Where the hell is she?"
Benunda.
What is it? He sees her across the bridge there. And then when
they're like,
and then she comes back and she's like, you need to come, come with me.
In unspoken crow language, you got to come get him.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's dead. And she's like, no. He's like, okay, look, he's dead. And she's like,
nah,
he's fine. Throws him on her back.
Yeah. And then they're off in the skies, and he's like, you know, it's, you know, and his birds go heading off to where they have their, you know, goes off and lays their eggs and raises their young in the middle of the, but not the aviary.
Where no human has been.
Where no human's been, and it's kind of like, Akola, are you supposed to be there, or were you just because she needed someone to pick up the body and put it on her back?
It almost seems like that. It's like, I don't have arms, you need to help me.
I don't know why I'm here.
Excuse me, human. Go get.
Go get. Use those opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed this. This sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
So I woke up in the morning. He's like, "Where's my bird?" And his guards are like, "You might want to come and see over here."
That's right. One or the other.
Yeah. I'm interested with his storyline because at the moment he is like, if we think about from for Serapio, so Serapio and Kiala, they have got this character-driven arc, right? Because they're going through the changes. Then we've got Narumpa, who the plot is happening to her, and Okoa's the same. So it's there is a nice balance to that of going. He's just like things are just happening to him. He's not doing anything, and he's just being taken along for the ride. So I'm interested to see if he's driven to agency in the next book. So and that would be also another interesting move in a second book of like if we are setting things up of going, well, who then has to go from having to have agency about what they're doing, and that's not just happening to them, that they have to, you know, do stuff.
It does seem like he's got potential to mature into, like, you know, he's like the second of the clan, the Crow clan. So, and it's their god that's rising, and something's got to happen there, right?
Yeah. I did like that they had the matrons, and that it was very much a matriarchy within the world. It was really cool.
I wonder if that's what it's like with birds. I wonder if it's because of the birds.
Maybe.
No, but it was all the Sky Maid clans were all matrons.
I just had a pun. Murder of crows. Pun. Oh my god.
There's been a few murder of crows in this book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh dear.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's it. Are we done?
Do we want to talk about the author's background versus where she's getting her inspiration from? I just would be curious to.
Just got that she's from New Mexico. What do you have, Sarah? What did you find?
So I read. Did anyone else read the article I posted? Yay, Mel did.
Oh, I meant to.
Fascinating read.
Sorry, what was that, Mel?
Fascinating read.
Fascinating, and one of those things that I think I wrote here, you know, I think it's important for people to question those who are using or taking inspiration from areas, from areas that aren't necessarily the culture that they grew up in or are from. But my takeaway on this, because the criticism was that Ms. Roanhorse is not Indigenous American, and thus, which I think is really interesting, because I know that this is true in Indigenous culture, those stories don't belong to her, or the inspirations don't belong to her, they belong to the people that she's from. However, Ms. Roanhorse,
Sarah, I don't think you've explained that very well. So she is part Indigenous American and part and from both the North and the South continents, because she's got it from both sides. But she was an orphan, and she was raised by a white family.
I was getting there.
Oh, sorry.
So she's actually half Black, half Spanish, and raised by a white family. Yes.
That's not what the article said.
It's in the article. So she was half. So it's a Spanish family. She went anyway. Because I went.
Don't you mean Hispanic?
Hispanic, from Spanish background. Hispanic is different to Indigenous.
Yeah, I know,
sure
but saying Spanish implies she's from Spain.
Yeah, Hispanic and Spanish are different things.
Okay, sorry. I've lost my train. Yeah. Anyway, she's all I wanted to get to with this was that she's actually married into in the, I think it's the Dene culture through her husband, and has been a very active part of that culture. She's very involved, and has a daughter who's very, who is, would be consider herself, Indigenous American, and is active there. She also was a lawyer for many years, representing Indigenous tribes and fighting on their behalf. So what's interesting, I think, in the criticisms are that there's this critique that because she's not Indigenous herself, that she shouldn't be taking from this, and yet she's been a very active part of a culture and community.
This was particularly aimed at her book Trail of Lightning, which is features the whole cast is Indigenous, Native American.
It specifically is tied to the Dene tribe, which has a very a strong messaging around their culture, that they don't want outsiders in or telling their stories for them. And so that's a big part of why this backlash has happened against her, because it's not so much that that it's a Native American in general, but it more specifically the Dene tribe that have this particular tradition strongly ingrained in terms of their stories and how they're being told and their control over it.
Yeah, which I don't remember that being specifically in there, but she did look for mentors and for critique with her work within the Dene, within the tribe. So there's, I think, within the tribe itself is a division within that, which I think is really, I think that's also really interesting, is that some of these criticisms are coming out also as people grapple with how you move into the modern world and keep your stories alive and invite people to share and understand your culture. And if that's happening through people who you may or may not, because someone doesn't have the bloodline, I just thought it was super interesting. But I thought, and I don't have an opinion because it's not right for me to have an opinion. I thought what was interesting, though, what I do have an opinion about is that the stories within this book are very much her stories, in terms of those characters are all facets of her experience. So what Mel was saying too before about that she was raised within a white family, and she's half Black, half Hispanic, and she went looking for family and was rejected by family. And she spent, she grew up somewhere where she was told she was different and she didn't belong. So she was very much like Serapio and never belonging where she was told she was. She was like Kiala and being rejected by her own people, you know. So I was really moved when I learned more about her background and her story, because I thought, no, I'm seeing that within this work. I don't know about the Trail of Lightning and Blazing Light, but I thought she's writing what she knows and finding a way to communicate and maybe have, I guess, a therapeutic experience through her work, and I think that's valid. And then what was it about Narumpa? Again, like Narumpa working so hard to be learned and never being accepted in the same way that she was a lawyer and she's worked so hard on behalf of, you know, of many people and still not quite accepted. So I just thought it was really interesting. And I don't know if that means that she's, I'd be interested to read the first work that, and you said you read it, right, Elizabeth? Yeah.
It's a post-apocalyptic sort of thing. Yeah.
So, I didn't know. Mel, you have some thoughts?
Oh, no, I just thought, I think, like you said, I think it's an interesting thing, because a lot of what the people from the Dene tribe that had a problem with her writing, a lot of their problem came from what you were trying to describe, that fact that she took their some of their culture and some of their stories and mixed it into this post-apocalyptic type story, and that's where they seem to have a real problem with it, because they were sort of like, you're riffing off our stuff, and that didn't sit right with them. Whether that's fair or not, as you said, Sarah, that was divided in amongst the tribe itself as to, you know, what's the right thing under those circumstances is. I don't have the answer, and clearly I'm not the one who should be answering that. But I think that it was interesting to find out the background of it and what was going on there. And I think given the general lack of representation that comes for Native American people, and that I can understand why it's become popular regardless. And it's I don't think it's necessarily a negative thing, but I can understand why the tribe itself might have problems.
Yeah,
so it's tricky.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about things. And this is just my own personal thing, is that I try to, within stuff I'm working on, always stick to that creed, of no stories about somebody without them, which is a thing in disability, which is no stories about us without us, which is the big criticism of SEA, which is absolutely accurate. And that's why there's a lot of things that I'm looking into to see, did they get people with disability involved? Is this tokenism, like that we were talking before about the non-binary character? Is that tokenism, or how is that? We'll find. I'm withholding judgment.
We missed the glaringly obvious bit there, in that one of the main characters is blind.
I came in part way to that conversation, so I had to go and say goodnight to the kids, and I thought that was what you were talking about.
Yeah,
you're talking about like representation and there was tokenism and all of that, and because I came in part way, I was like, I thought you maybe we're talking about disability representation because of the blind character. I didn't even realize that you were talking about the non-binary character, so that's interesting.
Yeah, because again, the Serapio is shown to be someone who finds their way in the world, who is interested in others, who's clearly smart. Like there's no white knight involved in this. If anything, he's the black knight, so it's a fully fleshed out character that's imperative to the narrative. Whereas I think we'll see about, why can't I remember the name?
Ictan.
I just don't know why I can't remember. Ictan. I think we'll find out, but I think that's
like as we discovered, it looks like Ictan's going to play a major part of the second book.
Great.
So things look positive on that front.
They do look positive. And I can imagine with someone like Hiala, that's going to be really
bisexual
interesting.
Disaster.
drinks heavily and has no control over the what they say or do. Someone who's nothing but
She is
control.
definitely
Doing great.
the hot mess part of the story, and I love it.
Yeah. So maybe they can rub off on each other a little bit. So that's really good. I suppose I just want to touch on one thing that I picked up as well. I thought this was really interesting. With the audio book, I was very interested in who the narrators were, so I went and looked them up. And there's great representation in the narrators.
I heard that.
Yeah. However, what I thought was really interesting is that one of the narrators, who's actually been replaced in the second book, who plays Hokoa, isn't actually Native American. He's Native Hawaiian.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was super interesting, and it's from a completely different tradition and culture and background and travel through the I guess a Polynesian background as opposed to a Central American background. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But they're very well known for working heavily in narrating Indigenous and Native American works. But I thought that was super interesting. And the person they've replaced him with is a Native Canadian. So I picked up on
Sarah.
What was that?
Canadian First Nations.
Yeah.
Okay.
That he put himself on his own bio as Native Canadian. So
okay.
I can only see what he had. Maybe he did maybe he did say First Nations, but I thought that was super interesting. And also, we need more Canadians out there. But it just reminds me of it's still, I think we talked about this even in the last books we did. Like this was like one of our seasonal smart reads. We were talking about
the Welsh guy who wasn't Welsh.
Like try and do an accent or get someone who put it out there. But it just and I thought that was it was really interesting. But from what I can tell, there's and if anyone's interested, the woman who plays not Kiala, Narampa, is in, I think it's called, is it called Until Dawn? She's actually in that as a character playing which I thought was really cool. I was like, oh, what? I know you. You're in that thing that they're playing on Steam. It's on Steam at the moment, so that was pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah.
Cool. Last thoughts?
I mean, it's been a great discussion. So good, Jay.
Yeah. Thank you, Secret Santa, for sending me this book. Thank you. It's pretty. I enjoyed it. I will read the second one. So thank you, Secret Santa.
Look forward to hearing your thoughts on that second one too.
I'll drop some comments in our Slack chat for that one. So I guess I'll close this off. Mel, if you are ready to hit recording. Our next book is Gear Breakers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, by Zoe Hana Mikuta.
On the 17th of September, which I think is a little out of sync for us, but yes.
The book picker
on a Saturday
evenings. Yeah.
It's on a Saturday. But given that we don't post the videos usually on time, it's not really that important.
It'll be around that date.
So in about 3 weeks. 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks,
yes.
Because we're a bit late on this one.
Yes. Sorry, my bad.
That's all right. It made me finish it.
All right, well, thank you. You can press stop.